issue, and I certainly commend anybody who takes an active role in their community. We need more people like that. Our community, our county, our city would be better if we had more people interested in these sorts of things. Where I have an issue, Mr. Harmon, are these bald accusations against Mr. Rogers that you have made, and I've got friends who receive your listserv. I know the things that you've said about me. I know the things you've said about Mr. Francis, not necessarily you, but your group, and about Ms. Stewart. All uncalled for, and you talk about this sense that partisan politics played a role in this. Sir, unless you have some proof of that, you're the one that's fueling that fire. This was a bipartisan vote, completely bipartisan vote, and I don't think Ms. Stewart is in line with me and Mr. Haggerty and Mr. McNutt. Mr. Francis certainly knew about this issue back in March. He didn't call Mr. Rogers or the staff and say, hey, we shouldn't do this. Politics had nothing to do with this. And in fact, you mentioned Commissioner Broyles earlier in your report. Just 4 years ago, Commissioner Broyles herself was supporting Mr. McKay's efforts to close not only Bell Morris, but Larry Cox, and have one voting location in all of North Knoxville.
I assume you're referencing the merge voting plan from Commissioner McKay. It would apply to the entire county and not just our neighborhood, correct?
But there's no distinction. The facility would be closed. So can you please tell me any factual proof that you have to support that this man sitting to my right, who I've known for almost 20 years and who may have the highest level of integrity of any person I know, why he's lying to not only our body but to the public? What facts do you have to support that?
The facts were in my presentation, and it was not about the person, it was about the arguments, and the arguments are false. You also asked the question...
What evidence do you have that those arguments are false, Mr. Harmon?
60 years of solid operation, and the one complaint traces back to a person who says he doesn't want the precinct closed.
But he admits that he made the complaint.
Oh yeah, you had an email that you sort of passed around, but it became an excuse to close. And as far as your point about partisanship, I quote a Mr. Bob Bowman in an email. No county GOP leader has expressed any concerns. Feel free to call Mr. Francis or Ms. Stewart and discuss the item further with them. Obviously, 4 to 5 months after the vote is a bad time to make any changes. I encourage you to have them become and get more engaged with their county Democratic Party leaders about these matters in the future. That is a partisan thing, and you wrote it.
Well, I didn't. I wrote it in response to the little press conference that you and Gloria Johnson had at Bell Morris.
And several others.
We have had polling locations closed and moved ever since I've been on the commission. And a lot of times people get upset. They don't like change. But generally what happens, Mr. Harmon, is that people come down to our meeting. I either call the administrator and come down and meet with us and talk through these issues, and in certain instances we have moved polling place back. But they've actually stood up, had a spine, and come down and talk with us. They've not had press conferences. They've not hid behind blogs and online petitions. They've actually shown some character and stood up to assert their constituents' position. You've not done that. You've never, until this day, never came down to address this with us one-on-one. And we're willing to talk about it, Mr. Harmon.
If you'll check your records, I previously attended election commission meetings. But
you didn't raise this issue, did you?
No, I was
the last issue you raised was you implored us to put Shelley Breeding on the ballot, and not only I can list about 4 Democratic judges who said you're wrong.
Well, Mr. Bowman,
I just want to know what facts that you have.
Hold on, Mr. Bowman.
What facts do you have that this man was lying to us? That's all I want to know.
No one said lying. I said that his claims are false, that he's making false claims, that he doesn't seem to understand the totality. He never mentioned, for example, across the street church parking. He overstates the value of the library, and the librarians do not want you choking their facility. These things are part of the record.
When did you talk to the librarian?
Yes.
When did you talk to the librarian? Who was the person you spoke to?
The desk librarian about 10 days ago.
Okay. What's her name?
I'll be happy to get her name for you. But in the meantime, let me respond. Because there was a personal attack. And apparently this must be a personal attack thing. That was the tenor of your email, and that's the tenor of your thing.
Certainly started by you.
Mr. Bowman, I am standing here, spine straight. I have done the things that citizens can and should do. Ask the government for redress of grievances, hold a public meeting, write a public column, create a public petition and present it. There is nothing wrong with that and everything right. And for you to assert that there's anything wrong with that, or the order of that or something else, is an insult to citizens and their activity. And you should be ashamed and apologize.
Have you ever heard, sir, that you get more flies with honey than vinegar?
Yes, and I keep wondering when you're going to learn that.
No, I want you, I mean, why wouldn't you be a man and come down and meet Mr. Rogers about this first?
I have talked to Cliff on the phone. We have spoken about these matters. You are assuming facts not there. It's very bad confusion.
Well, did Mr. Rogers, did he call you after the
We
change?
never had any discussions until this week. The only other conversation I ever had with Mr. Harmon was about Shelley Brady.
We had a previous phone call, you may have forgotten, and we had two this week, as one previously.
I don't remember the one previous except about Shelley Brady.
No, I called you, and you gave the whole handicap thing, and I said...
I have no recollection of that.
It happened.
Well,
I was going to interject that Mr. Harmon has been in contact with me pretty frequently since, I guess,
Dr. Harmon.
Excuse me, Dr. Harmon. I should know that. My parents are PhDs. They're sticklers for that, too. So, Dr. Harmon. We've been in touch, quite a bit, just to, I guess, for you to express your concerns about this whole process. And I want to say that I have to agree with one of Bob's earlier statements that, no, I do not always sit here and agree with that side. When we had the discussion about Bell Morris back in March, as I've told you and others, I was here and questioned the whole issue itself, and I walked away with the understanding that there was a problem for handicapped people, and that was the reason I voted the way I did. But I guess overall, you're welcome to express your opinion. We all have opinions. You're welcome to come anytime. Anybody who's here for the first time is welcome to come at any time. We welcome your opinion. And I really don't have an issue with what Cliff presented that day, because to me, as I said, that was my concern, that a handicapped person was not being allowed to have proper access to voting, and that's the way I understood it that day. But again, anybody is welcome anytime to communicate with anybody on this board.
And I appreciate the courtesy with which you've always responded to my inquiries. Genuinely, and none of this digging in heels and defending, without thinking. You've always been open-minded about this, and I appreciate it.
Oh, Mr. Harmon, you're always welcome to personally come down and address this body at any time. I'm not trying to dissuade you.
I know that.
In fact, I want to encourage you to do that, because I think dialogue is far more important one-on-one than how I've viewed other things that have transpired since March of 2012.
8 a.m. meetings are always tough. That's why we did the online petition, to make sure that 163 Knox County people told you should change your position.